Post-study work visa rules are changing. In fact, employer-assisted post-study visas are being eradicated. This is huge news for current and future students intending to study here in New Zealand. Depending on what side of the coin you fall on, these changes will either be a blessing or spell trouble. So what is changing? Why has the government come up with these changes? And how will they impact you? Spend some time with me today and I'll show you. To understand what triggered the changes, we must go back to September 2011 when the former national government announced to double the economic value of education to New Zealand. Their goal was to transform international education into a $5 billion export industry by bringing as many students as they could swoop up. The consequences were colossal. Suddenly, new educational providers were cropping up all over the place. These PTEs had agents across the world, spreading lies and misinformation about the ease in which a migrant could get New Zealand residence, if they studied at the college who the agent was associated with. The college would get their student, and all that juicy course fees, while their agent would get a nice big paycheck for finding the student. On the flip side, the student would pay a couple of $1,000s for a cheap course. Although the education is cheap, at least in comparison to our university international fees, you can bet the quality of the education isn't good, not by a long shot. In fact, once I had a client who studied business at one of these institutes, and he couldn't even make a budget. We're talking basic addition and subtraction here, people. I, the lawyer, who never studied business before, had to teach this guy simple mathematics. That's when I knew there was something wrong in this country. To the former government, it didn't matter that the students these institutes were pumping out were low skilled. What mattered was the value they added to the economy. More people here meant more money being spent at shops and such. To the student, it didn't matter much either, because they got their level 4 to 6 qualification, and under the previous immigration rules, could work for 1 year on an open job search visa, and then for 2 years on an employer-assisted visa. This provided a pathway towards residence, but only for some, for you see, these low-skilled people were caught out when they attempted to apply for residence, and failed due to their lack of skills. They were then sent on their merry way, back to their home countries, and the cycle of receiving migrants, getting their money, and sending them away has carried on since. Educational providers weren't the only ones taking advantage. Employers jumped on the migrant exploitation bandwagon as well. The old rules gave employers power because to stay in NZ on a 2-year post-study visa, one needs a job offer. I'd hear stories of migrants working excessive hours without pay, or there would be arrangements made between employer and employee where the wages were being funneled back into the employer's bank account. The changes now seek to stop that from happening by giving a degree of bargaining power back to migrants. So what's changing? Well, it depends on what group of people you fall under. You may be an existing student visa holder, a current post-study work visa holder, or a migrant considering becoming a student in New Zealand. For existing students who hold a student visa, or their application has been accepted since 8th of August 2018, you will be entitled to a 3-year open work visa, no matter whether you hold a level 4 or level 10 qualification. For example, Iqbal is studying a diploma in business level 5. His course lasts for at least 60 weeks. Once he has completed his qualification, from November 2018, he'll be eligible for a 3-year open work visa. Meanwhile, Juliet has a level 7 bachelor's degree in nursing. Just like Iqbal, she too gets a 3-year open work visa when she completes her study. You should be aware, students studying level 7 or above need only study for at least 30 weeks. Level 4 to 6 students are required to study for at least 60 weeks to qualify for the 3-year open work visa, unless they are studying for 2 qualifications. Then, those 2 qualifications need only be for a period of 30 weeks each. These rules are great for many students who are already studying. An open work visa to be in New Zealand for 3 years and not be stuck with any particular employer for fear of losing your right to be in New Zealand? It's a dream come true. For people who have finished their studies and are current post-study work visa holders, you may fall under one of two scenarios. In scenario A, Sarah has just finished her course in IT. Good for her! She now has an open work visa for 1 year. From November 2016, once her current visa is close to expiring, she'll be eligible for a further 2-year open work visa. However, let's say Sarah has been on an open work visa for 11 months. As her visa expires before the changes come into force on the 26th of November 2018, she'll need to apply under the old post-study rules and will need a job relevant to her qualification to get a visa. In scenario B, Mark finished his studies in engineering 2 years back. He's on the last year of his post-study employer-assisted work visa, which allows him to work for Metals R Us, a company which specialises in engineering, manufacturing and motor industries. But Mark has a bit of a problem. He doesn't get along with his boss. At last year's Christmas party, Mark got really drunk and spilt wine down his boss's new shirt, embarrassing him in front of a board of directors. Ouch! His employer has taken a great dislike to Mark and has begun scrutinising his performance, looking for any way to get rid of him. Now Mark is really worried. He tried looking for other jobs, but no employer is prepared to support him. If his boss fires him, Mark is sure he'll let Immigration New Zealand know he's without work, and Mark will be forced to leave the country. Or will he? After the 26th of November 2018, Mark can apply for a variation of conditions to have the job and the employer stated on his work visa removed, meaning he doesn't have to contact immigration when he finds an employer in the future until his visa expires. Yay for Mark! A couple of small things to note. If you are on an employer-assisted post-study work visa, you don't have to apply for a VOC to have the employer removed if you don't want to. This is entirely your choice. Also, if you do apply to have your job and employer removed from your visa, you won't get an additional 3 years. You will only get the remainder of your entitlement. So if you've been on an open work visa for 1 year and an employer-assisted visa for 1 year, you'll only be entitled to 1 more year. Now let's move on to the last pool of people, new students. The rules contained in this table apply if you do not hold a student visa or have not had a student visa application accepted for processing on the 9th of August 2018. Take a close look. See here how people with bachelor's degrees or above get a full 3 years on their work visas? Everyone below a level 7 bachelor's degree only gets a 1 year open post-study work visa. This of course includes level 7 graduate diplomas, other non-level 7 qualifications, and certificates and diplomas at level 4 to 6. There are exceptions. Take good old George for example. He's planning to study a level 7 in Chartered Accounting in Auckland. But it's not a bachelor's, it's only a graduate diploma. Fortunately, as George is working towards registration with the Chartered Accountants Institute of New Zealand, a professional body, he'll be entitled to a 1 year work visa and an extra year on his open work visa, bringing his total years to 2. So to get that extra year, you've got to work towards registering with a profession or trade. Likewise, if you hold a level 4 to 7 diploma and choose to study outside of Auckland, instead of 1 year, you'll get a 2-year open work visa. But there's a catch. To qualify for this, you must complete your qualifications by 31st of December 2021. If you don't, then no matter where in the country you are studying, you'll only get a 1 year work visa. So that pretty much covers the changes. Now, what do I think? Well, I have to give credit where credit's due. The government has dealt a serious blow to these PTEs, who have for far too long got away with saying a false picture of a cheap and easy way towards New Zealand residents through study. By raising the bar for open work visa rights, educational providers are forced to offer better quality education for migrants looking to obtain the more generous post-study work rights. Hopefully, many phony agents who are illegally handing out dodgy immigration advice overseas will start to disappear, as there are fewer incentives to study a low quality course here. Equally, employers will be less likely to try and exploit their migrant labour, as migrants no longer have to put up with shifty practices and can leave the job and take time to find another job without worrying about deportation or other immigration consequences. The changes also encourage students to move away from Auckland and through to the regions. I recently attended an immigration conference where it was said that Auckland's population is headed towards 2 million people. In a small country of 5 million, this is a serious issue, and I believe the extra year of post-study work visa will help lift productivity and growth to other areas of the country without putting too much pressure on Auckland's infrastructure. At the end of the day, the only ones who are suffering from this are poor quality education providers with their shady overseas agents, as well as low-level students and, well, lawyers and immigration advisors who will have less work on their hands. Now before you say, but Richie, a ton of people will stop coming here because it's too restrictive on new students. Well, check this out. Immigration have published an interesting chart comparing regulatory settings between New Zealand and other similar Western countries. According to this table, New Zealand, while becoming more restrictive for post-study rights at sub-degree level than Australia and Canada, we are still far easier than Ireland, USA and UK. Just something to have a good think about. Well, that's about it from me today. I'll leave a link in the description that covers frequently asked questions. Be sure to take a look at my detailed video about how to calculate your points for the skilled migrant category, which I'll leave here. And if you're interested in checking out my top 10 tips for getting New Zealand residence, I'll leave that video here. See you later.